Whether you know him as a football blogger on SB Nation or as a lineman for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers during the 90s, Steve White was certainly someone who left his mark on the world. He recently passed away at the age of 48, remarkably young for a guy that seemingly had everything. In this video, we'll be taking a look at that and a few other related stories. Let's begin. First, how did Steve White pass away? For the past few years of his life, Steve White has been writing blogs for SB Nation. However, in 2020, his blog posts stopped appearing, and soon it was announced that White has been diagnosed with chronic lymphocytic leukemia. White was actually suffering from leukemia since 2014, but by 2020, it had advanced to a chronic stage. The diagnosis was tough on Steve, and his health meant that it was no longer possible for him to even write blogs from his house. In April of 2022, he underwent a bone marrow transplant that would hopefully heal his leukemia. The surgery was a success, but unfortunately, it wasn't able to completely remove the cancer. At this point, White was already too weakened by over 8 years of cancer, and just a few months later in August of 2022, he passed away. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers Twitter account was the first to announce his death. In the statement, they said that they are saddened to hear the news of Steve's passing, calling him a very impactful player for the team overall. The tweet received over 4,000 likes and over 100 replies, mostly by fans of White who were paying tribute to the player. Up next, how did White join the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Steve White was drafted to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers shortly after leaving college in 1996. He was a 6th-round pick for the Philadelphia Eagles, who wanted White to play as one of their top linebackers. To do this, White had to lose over 20 pounds and go through intense training, completely changing up his play style. However, before the season could begin, White was unable to satisfy the team with his progress. As a result, they let go of him. He was quickly picked up by Tampa Bay before the season began. Instead of continuing his training as a linebacker, the Bucs simply asked White to gain back the 20 pounds he lost and play as a defensive end instead. This was perfect, since he had played that position for most of his high school and college football career, and it wasn't long before he became one of the top defensive ends on the team. He played as backup for the first 3 seasons, and it wouldn't be until 1999 when his talents were recognized and he became a starter for the team. That same year, the Bucs made the playoffs, and White's performance played a huge role in that. Coming up, what other teams did Steve White play with? By the end of the 90s, Steve White had become one of the defensive ends in the NFL. The Bucs were also the only team that White had played with up until that point in his career. However, after the 1999 season, White was not as extensively featured in the team anymore. It seemed like he had peaked, and it was only a matter of time before someone else would come over to replace him. Eventually, in 2002, White parted ways with the Bucs and joined the New York Jets instead. This would ultimately mark the end of his career, because shortly before the end of 2002, White announced that he would be retiring from the NFL. Now, it's not clear as to why White decided to retire. After all, he was only 29, which isn't that young, but it certainly isn't old for the NFL. He could have easily pulled off a couple of more seasons in his 30s. However, it seemed as if fitness was always a problem for White, and the problem only got worse as he got older. On top of that, he seemed to enjoy playing with the Bucs, and once he left that team, he simply didn't have the motivation anymore. Next, is Steve yet another example of how NFL players die too soon? Over the course of the past 2 decades, one thing has become very apparent, is that NFL players die way too soon. In fact, the average age that a former football player dies at is just 59 years. In comparison, the average male in the US has a life expectancy of over 78 years. The fact that the average NFL player has a lifespan that's around 20 years shorter is a seriously concerning statistic. On top of that, the life expectancy for NFL players is also far lower than for players in other sports. But in the case of Steve White, it would be unfair to say that his death was the result of the NFL. After all, he died from cancer, something that could happen to anyone. It's just really unfortunate that this had to happen to him at such a young age, but that's life. This doesn't, however, detract from the fact that he was just 10 years short of the average age that NFL players die at, and this means that the NFL still needs to focus more on spending some of those billions on getting their players adequate health care. When you combine this with the fact that 78% of NFL players go bankrupt within 2 years of leaving the league, it's pretty damning. Now let's take a look at some other news regarding the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. First, Tom Brady explains his 11-day-long absence. Tom Brady is currently the best player in the world no matter how you look at it, so naturally, he's also the most important player on the team. Without him, the Bucs aren't really capable of winning games as easily as they are used to, which is why fans were so worried when Brady suddenly went missing for 11 straight days. For a significant chunk of the preseason, Brady wasn't present, and this sent Bucs fans into a panic. Many thought it could have been an undisclosed injury that could change things forever, while others thought Brady might be out contract shopping for new teams. However, in the end, Brady eventually returned, and he told everyone to calm down. Brady didn't really explain why he was gone for 11 days, but he simply said that everyone has their way of handling things in life, and that he's 45, so naturally, there's a lot of shit going on in his life at the moment. If the rumors are to be believed, he was on vacation in the Bahamas Bahamas with his wife, Giselle. Up next, Bucs lose Robert Hainsey and Nick Leverett. Despite having the best football player in the world on the team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers aren't exactly blessed with the best offensive lineup. Aside from just Brady, Robert Hainsey and Nick Leverett have always been considered some of the best offensive lines on the team. However, now they don't even have them. If we take a look back, the Bucs first lost Ryan Jensen and Aaron Stinney due to knee injuries. These two were replaced by Robert Hainsey and Nick Leverett. But now, Robert Hainsey has an injured left ankle and Nick Leverett has a shoulder injury. This practically means that Tom Brady, a 45-year-old man, is now the only player that the Bucs can rely on. Thankfully, if there was ever a single player that was capable of carrying an entire league on his back, it was Tom Brady. But still, all of this puts the Bucs in a very vulnerable position for the first time in forever. Coming up, Brady says he chose the right place with Bucs. In recent months, rumors have been strife about Brady apparently jumping ship to the Raiders. He's been seen at numerous Raiders games, and he is friends with some of the players as well. This is why many fans think that if there was a team that Brady would leave the Bucs for, it would have to be the Raiders. However, in a recent interview, Brady brushed off the rumors. He said that he is confident that he has chosen the right place with the Bucs. Brady mentioned that even when he played for the Patriots, he knew that if there was one team he always wanted to play for, it's the Bucs. He also reiterated that his recent absence was completely due to personal reasons, not because he was out shopping for a new team. And finally, Tampa Bay's secret weapon revealed. The Bucs have been among the most successful NFL teams in the world in recent years. But have you ever wondered what their secret weapon was? Believe it or not, it's not Tom Brady. Many columnists are crediting the Bucs' recent success to Alex Guerrero, a permanent fixture at the One Buck Palace who works as a trainer, fitness guru, and health coach. Apparently, Alex Guerrero's techniques are a top secret, and they're almost considered magical by some of the other players on the team. He has worked with Tom Brady since even before he was in the Bucs, and by now, his influence isn't really that big of a secret. But it's still insane to see the kind of impact that a health coach can have on a team. That's a wrap for this video. What's your favorite moment from Steve White's career? Let us know in the comments below. As always, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.